As such, when the book kept saying Northern Canada, I was like, where in Canada? Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of Camp Zero by Michelle Min Sterling. This is a sci-fi eco-fiction dystopian book from Atria Books. This comes out in April 2023, so next month. I received this arc from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review, as you probably expected. There are no spoilers in this review. This bleak yet mesmerizing eco-fiction moves at a languid pace, but with flashes of intensity that keep you reading. What is it about? In the far north of Canada sits Camp Zero, an American building project hiding many secrets. Desperate to help her climate-dispatched Korean immigrant mother, Rose agrees to travel to Camp Zero and spy on its architect in exchange for housing. She arrives at the same time as another newcomer, a college professor named Grant, who's determined to flee his wealthy family's dark legacy. Gradually, they realize that there is more to the architect than previously thought, and a disturbing mystery leaks beneath the surface of the camp. At the same time, rumors abound of an elite group of women soldiers living and working at a nearby Cold War-era climate research station. What are they doing there, and who is leading them? An electrifying page-turner where nothing is as it seems, Camp Zero cleverly explores how the intersection of gender, class, and migration will impact who and what will survive in a warming world. This book is likely slower than most people would expect, given it's marked as like kind of an action sci-fi. The electrifying things about it are more in the concepts and brief moments of action than the novel as a whole, which is quite slow-moving. Truthfully, I kind of loved it. The style draws you in, and it's a very realism-based story, with the main plot being decidedly believable. And then we have the women at the base, which is part survival, part Mad Max Fury Road in the snow, minus the snow car crashes. The novel is told from 3 points of view: Rose, Grant, and an unnamed first person set in the White Alice camp. The latter reminds me a bit of Annihilation, as it's populated entirely by women who are only known by their occupations. For example, the geographer, the engineer, etc., which is kind of the format that Annihilation took as well. All three are equally compelling and serve to provide background into the world at large. Climate change and disaster brought by climate change are also a major focus of the novel, but are shown in a realistic yet horrific way. It's true, global warming does not mean everything is warmer, though that is a product of it. It means we're going to see more and more erratic and damaging weather. Billions of coastal living people are going to be displaced in the next 20 years due to floods and tsunamis, which is going to cause influxes of climate refugees into other countries. This is going to have huge impacts on migration, but also on kind of our food supplies. It's going to have impacts on a lot of things. And tied to this, also, as you know, we're degrading our planet as we go. I mentioned this in another review, but if you're interested in this, check out Regenesis. It's a fantastic nonfiction book. It kind of is depressing at the start, but it has some kind of solutions at the end, which I thought was really compelling as well. Anyway, back to this book. I love the characters. Rose is calm and collected, having perfected that persona as an armor for herself. Never once does she stray from her overall mission, though, to get her mother to a safe place. Everyone in this novel acts like an adult. There's no overly dramatic declarations of love or hysteria on behalf of anyone. Grant is likable as well, a man who is struggling under the weight of privilege, of being aware of this privilege and feeling guilt and pressure from it. And we also have the unnamed narrator of White Alice, who gives a compelling, concise history of the women's commune. The story itself is layered, where people from all three plotlines overlap in ways that you figure out just before the reveal. In that regard, it was very satisfying. The story is packed with not subtle jabs at wealth, culture, greed, systemic misogyny, and inequality, which I was totally on board with. I will say, though, that the ending was a bit rushed. Everything else in the novel moves at a languid pace, but the last 10% jammed in a lot of stuff and wrapped things up in a way that felt like a birthday gift hastily shoved in a paper bag. It's there, but it wasn't done up in the best way. One of the most interesting things about the novel is the inclusion of a tech called the Flick, which is a device embedded in you at birth, like behind your ear, that allows you to be connected to the internet at all times and kind of display things in front of your eyes, that kind of stuff. It's clearly a jab at our hyperconnectivity today and how it's argued to be eroding our ability to communicate with others offline. The only thing that I really liked this concept, that was interesting. The only thing that I didn't understand was, how are you supposed to take pictures for Instagram, if you don't have a camera that you can do a selfie with? I don't know. That's not explained. One thing I very much enjoyed was the normalized depiction of sex work in the book. It's simply a job, which is what it should be. Rose fully chooses this job, and the most realistic thing about it is how she's getting tired of it. And not the sex part, really, but having to put up with the tedium of her clients' conversations and having to pander to their emotional needs. I imagine that is probably really hard. Because it's shown that she kind of has to, like, she can't really push back against anything that they're saying. She kind of has to be subservient or submissive to their emotions. And I can imagine that that would be very, very frustrating. Me personally, I couldn't do it. Now, though, along with the ending that was kind of meh, a pet peeve of mine snuck up in this book. And no, not the word mankind, but incorrect information about giving birth. At one part, the narrator comments on a woman being surprisingly lucid during labor, and I was like, what? Why wouldn't she be lucid? You don't go into some kind of pain coma during labor. Like, I mean, I know. I've done natural birth twice, and you're very lucid for all of it. If you're not lucid, there's a problem, like preeclampsia or something. So I was kind of like, what? That's weird. They also said that pushing can take 20 minutes to several hours, which is not true. Most of the time, pushing is about half an hour to an hour for a first pregnancy, but can go to 3. Several hours would need medical intervention. Personally, for my first, I pushed for about 20 minutes before I had to have an episiotomy. That was super fun without pain medication. Like, no numbing or anything. You know, I mean, what can I say? I'm a badass. Anyway, that's just me being picky about a topic that I find is often so wrong in books. I mean, this was not egregious. This was way better than a lot of birthing scenes that I've read. But yeah, anyway. It didn't affect my rating at all, but I will admit it annoyed me to no end when it kept saying, Northern Canada. I'm like, where in Canada? Anyway, those two nitpickety things aside that I said, have nothing to do with my rating of the book. It's just, this is my YouTube channel. If I want to rant, I can rant if I want to. I really enjoyed the book. I was really addicted to it. I stayed up way too late reading it. And I am definitely going to check out other books by this author. And yeah, I think if you like dystopian eco-fiction, you should definitely check it out. And even check it out if you like kind of like a slow, languid story with some pretty heavy topics. It's very much a serious novel, and I very much appreciate that about it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and